This episode of To Make Sense was brought to you by the following sponsors. And by contributions to your TWIMC station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of To Make Concern. We are the #1 best podcast in the world, and if anyone disagrees, kill them. Kill them. Kill them.
Little bit of a
Kill them.
Little bit of a harsh
Kill them.
opening there.
Kill.
Little bit of a harsh opening there by William
I'm
the
just
Hooster.
kidding. Don't kill anyone. That's illegal.
Or is it?
You know what? You're raising the important questions, Derek. You're raising the important questions. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. If you've never seen the podcast before, this is where I deliver topics that Steven on the right here will respond to. He'll respond to them whether or not he knows what I'm talking about, because he's very uncultured.
Very.
I've had to eliminate several topics in the past because I felt like he wouldn't know what to say about it, because all he's interested in is Splatoon and Hello Kitty games and
Hey, listen. I have an interest
and Apple slander. Let's get Apple slander. He literally slandered Apple right before we got on here.
I literally just said the word apple.
He said it with a negative connotation. That equals slander nowadays. I hope you know that.
Nowadays. Okay, guys, so just so you know, just so we're on the same page, everyone, if you say a random word with a slightly negative connotation, that is equivalent to slander.
It's not even just the negative connotation, it's the context that you have slandered Apple before very explicitly, and so by you just saying Apple in a negative tone, that equals even more slander. So
I feel like I have a very good reason for the things that I say regarding the fruit company.
The fruit company. Wait, hold on. Are we talking about a fruit company named Apple, or are we talking about the electronics store? Or the electronic company?
That is for you to decide.
Okay. Yeah, apples are bad. They give you healthy nutrients. Who wants that?
Obviously not you, judging by the look of you. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We lost him, chat. We lost him.
I imagine that was a...
Oh, looks like we... Okay.
Meditation in order to recover from that insult. Anyways, I'm back.
I'm sorry. You left it like right there in front of me.
All right. I hope that didn't mess up anything recording wise.
Nah. See, my recording setup is immune to Apple.
Okay, Apple slander aside, you know, and let's not forget, slander is a crime, so you could go to jail and get arrested for it. Again, you caught me with that. But anyway, speaking of getting arrested, that's our first topic. All right, so
you got arrested?
Oh,
I can't wait to hear this story.
Oh yeah, I don't know if the first part of my little speech got cut off or not, but like I said, I went on a 10-year meditation journey to recover from that insult, so I could get to a calm place of mind now. It felt like a few seconds to you, but to me it was 10 years. And during that, I had to kill some children. I mean, what?
I'm sorry. Do you mind repeating that for the camera?
So in that 10 years, I've been very well versed in the art of getting arrested, and that's part of what this time. Okay, for legal reasons, all that was a joke.
We're gonna get demonetized.
Well, we were never monetized to begin with. Yeah. All right, so So a few weeks ago, I brought up the NFL teams, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and
Um,
apparently the Chiefs losing or something like that.
yeah, the Chiefs lost. They had a back-to-back winning seasons where they won the Super Bowl twice, and they were looking to three-peat, but the Eagles prevented that from happening. That's not really super relevant. I just wanted to lay the groundwork so that you
It
to
may not
remind
be
you
super
who.
relevant, but it is a Super Bowl.
You know what? It is a very Super Bowl. I will give you that. The bowl is very super. Um,
Is it
but
even a
I am
bowl?
bringing this up. I'm bringing this up just to remind you and give a little bit of context of who the Kansas City Chiefs are. They are an NFL team that they have a lot of success and they've won a lot of games in the past few years. Um, and so with that,
The only thing I know about the
the
Kansas City Chiefs is their color is red, and one of their players is married to Taylor Swift.
well, not married yet, but
Well, is
they're
it
definitely
close enough?
they're dating. They're very much dating. That's for sure. But another thing about the Chiefs players, the entire team is there's been a unusual trend with them recently of Chiefs players getting arrested during the off season. Because like it's not the hugest thing out of the ordinary for a NFL player to get arrested over the course of an off season for whatever they may be doing, but it's another thing entirely for the past couple of years. The Chiefs have had several players get arrested for various reasons, which we'll get into, and so last year alone, there were a total of 4 players who got arrested for various reasons in the span of only a few months. And and this was all last year. And as of now, a couple of days ago, one of their rookies, like someone who spent only a year with them, also got arrested. So this brought up the conversation again of the ongoing trend of Chiefs players getting arrested during the offseason and why is this specifically happening with this particular team. So let's go ahead and get into these individual cases right here. Some of them aren't very specific, but the first one definitely is. This all kind of started with the wide receiver known as Rashee Rice. Um, his is probably the most well known of last year. He got arrested for reckless driving. He was racing with another car down a 2-lane street, and they ended up causing a huge car crash. And there's video of it too, of all the cars crashing. And afterwards, Rashee Rice and his entourage, they just leave the car and they just leave.
Sounds about right.
They just walk away. Because they're just like, oh, I just crashed a bunch of cars. All right, let me just get out. Let me just walk away. Let me just forget about this whole thing. And Steven, are you you look like you're adjusting something.
Don't worry about that. It's not important. Just some
Okay,
minor things going on off screen. Very, very.
All right,
minor.
I just wanted to make sure you are hearing, like, listening to what I'm
I
saying.
have headphones on. I can hear you.
Well, yeah, but I was wondering if you were paying attention or not, because this is.
Bold of you to assume I was in the first place. Nah, but I am.
I'll be quizzing you at the end of this topic, so just So yeah, that was the first player who got arrested. The second player was a man named Isaiah Buggs, who got arrested for domestic violence. And the details on this are, I don't exactly remember. I just looked up a list because I remember this incident happening, but I don't remember the specifics. I think it was like his girlfriend or something, but I do not remember. But that was the second one that happened. It happened within a week of the Rashee Rice thing happening. So 2 players from the same team getting arrested in the same week during the offseason. And then after that, within the next month or so, there are 2 other players One of them has a really weird name that I don't know how to pronounce, and they both have similar charges. They were arrested for marijuana possessions, or as I put in the notes, they were arrested for the damn weed. That's a funny, famous little ESPN clip of a commentator saying that exact thing the exact same way. It's like, it's the damn weed. And
Also
he shakes
sounds
his
about
head
right.
like this. It's a very hilarious ESPN clip. I think from Stephen A. Smith or something. So yeah,
Hey, it's me.
and so that's all that. And as of last week or a few days ago, Xavier Worthy, a wide receiver who was actually drafted earlier last year and has spent only 1 year with the Chiefs, he got arrested again for domestic violence. And so we have 5 players all getting arrested within the span of a year or two. And this is causing a lot of people to question the Chiefs organization and questioning if it's a problem with the players themselves or is it a problem with the organization that something they're being taught, something that's happening is causing them to believe that they're above the law or whatever the case may be. What do you think of that, Steven?
I don't know. I think, like, in my personal experience, and like as you probably know, I don't really follow the NFL or like professional sports in general, but I feel like I hear a lot in the past of like famous people in general, whether it be like sports players or even outside of sports, but especially football players for some reason. I don't know what it is about them, but I hear a lot about those kind of people like being arrested for various things. Even like at the college level, like there's college sports players and football
Oh yeah,
players
definitely.
that get arrested for
course.
stuff and get into all kinds of trouble. And like I don't know, like it could be what you're saying, just like something causing them to like, they're in a position where they just start believing they're above the law, like, they don't have to follow the law like all those filthy civilians or something like that.
Those filthy casuals.
Yeah.
Oh, what? You live by the law? What a nerd. What a nerd.
Yeah. So like I don't know if like that could potentially be a reason or if it's just like it could just be a kind of thing of like they're making so much money and they just get in trouble because they have a lot of money and they get into the mindset that a lot of people have when they're rich where like money just fixes everything. It's like, I can do whatever I want. I have money. Like a lot of people think that way
Yeah.
too.
And it's also been a huge debate of whether or not giving these young men this amount of money early on, because a lot of them when they entered the NFL and even with college too nowadays they're making so much money.
Yeah.
And they're just so young and dumb and immature and they just don't really know too much better because they only just now got into adulthood. And so it is kind of one of those things where it's like, and on the one hand it is like one of those things where it's like you kind of have to like for some of these arrests where it comes to like marijuana possession or something, that's just a case of like a bunch of men who grew up probably a high school stoner or grew up like going to parties where they have marijuana there and whatnot. But then there's also the other stuff too of like the domestic violence that seems to be a lot more serious and like what drives someone to like commit something like that. Like obviously each case is different, but more times than not it's just a matter of a guy feeling superior, like physically superior to like their significant other, whoever they may be, and whenever a issue or a some sort of argument comes up, they always resort to violence, and it kind of makes you question like what could be causing them, because football players are very physical men,
Yeah.
so they're very strong and they're very like, if you know one, they'll be like they're very big, and if they wanted to, they could probably beat your ass. So
Yeah. I used to think that way about Will because if you guys didn't know, Will used to play football back in high school. I happen to know that.
well, not
'cause-
not high school. I used to play in middle school,
Or
but
middle
once
school,
high school rolled
whatever.
around, I stopped playing.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being, he
yeah.
used to play, but like I've known Will for quite a while, and like we make jokes about it, but he is genuinely very large, much larger than me, and like I know the kinds of things that he could probably do to me if he really wanted to.
Hey, Steven, I will let you know you are cutting out for me. I don't know if my side's getting slow internet wise or whatnot, but whatever you said in the past few seconds, I wasn't able to hear. By the way, I will say, for those watching back at home, Steven is recording on a laptop and not his desktop, so that might be contributing. And he's also back home for the spring break. I don't know if we mentioned that yet
Yeah.
or not.
You probably noticed the background is different. That's because I am not at my apartment.
Right. So he's on spring break. I'm not on spring break for another week or so. Next week is the school week, but then the week after that is gonna be my spring break. So in a couple episodes or so, I should be recording one from home.
And I'll be back in
So,
my apartment on my desktop where I have actual performance.
Right, because as much as we make fun of Auburn for their Wi-Fi issues at times, it is usually pretty like suitable and pretty usable.
Yeah.
For your college and my college as well. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. Of football players, you know, they're getting, and the most recent case is especially interesting with Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, that is one hell of a name.
No way you
Xavier
pronounced it
Worthy. Your last
Xavier.
name is Xavier.
Isn't it just pronounced like
You know,
Xavier?
like Xavier. I've heard people say it different ways. I personally say Xavier. Xavier.
I wouldn't
say
know
it,
because
like-
like obviously I don't know how his name is actually pronounced. I'm imagining it being spelt with an X, like just starting with an X.
Let me type it
Usually-
out for you just so you can see.
Usually
But,
when names
or-
are spelled starting with an X, and like I'm not saying this is like a rule always, but usually like people that I've known whose names are spelled that way, it's usually pronounced just as if it was a Z.
Xavier.
Yeah,
Like
that's like a standard spelling of it, but I don't know.
I've
Like I
seen
said,
tons of
I'm not
videos
claiming
talking about
to.
Xavier Worthy, and I see a lot of them say it's just Xavier. And there's also a character in the in X-Men, a Marvel property of Xavier Charles or something like that, and it sounds like that, just Xavier. But I will also say the last name Worthy. Like he's literally last name is Worthy. He's literally Worthy.
I'm worthy.
And another fun fact about Xavier Worthy is that last year during the combine, he actually set the record for the fastest 40-yard dash out of pretty much anyone. So he was literally the fastest player, and now he's the fastest going to jail. So ain't that's pretty ironic, honestly.
Ain't that something?
But yeah, I don't know what else to really talk about. This is just kind of an interesting topic I want to talk about of the trend of these players, and obviously players from other teams are also going to have like a couple of players who are like going to like do something stupid or whatnot. But the fact that it's the Chiefs in particular who are having all these players get into legal trouble. I haven't even mentioned yet the case of a couple years ago when Tyreek Hill was still there. He got into a lot of legal trouble. But it's just like, do you think it's the team or do you think it's just a matter of the players and it's just a coincidence that a lot of them just so happen to be from this team? Which, by the way, let me just reiterate, what is very good and has won a lot of championship games, including the Super Bowl. Do you think the aspect of them being part of a winning team causes something else more of them doing something illegal like this?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it could. Because, like, if you think about it, like, either it's the fact that they're on a winning team or they're just on a team that's really popular and has a lot of money that they probably get paid. Because you got to realize people who are on the Chiefs probably get paid a lot, maybe more than they would get if they were on another team. Obviously, all NFL players get paid a lot relatively,
Right.
but Chiefs players
Right.
probably get paid more than, like, say, I don't know, Browns players or something.
Like, the driving force for a lot of teams, if not all teams, for making it to the championships and making it to the Super Bowl is so they can have merchandise and more
Yeah.
tickets that are sold for them being in the playoffs or being in the Super Bowl. So obviously because of that, they will have a lot more money to work with rather than a team that just goes 3-13 and doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but it could be that, or it could also be because, like you said, like going back to what you said earlier about it potentially being like a superiority complex. Like these people just feel like they're superior and above other people because they, play football for a professional team or whatever. It could be like they're on a team that's as popular as the Chiefs and that's like as well renowned as the Chiefs. Like, oh yeah, it's the Chiefs. They're like this great team, and they made it to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl and almost won the Super Bowl, I guess. In like the past couple of years, they have won the Super Bowl from what I've heard. But it could be that they, just playing for such a successful organization could also be fueling these players' superiority complex and just making them feel like they're just better than everyone else.
Could very well be the case. That could very well be the case. And with that being said, I think we're going to move on to the next topic. The next couple of topics are going to be a little short before we get to the main thing that I wanted to do for this
The meat.
episode.
We have
The meat of the episode,
meat.
if you will. You go, Arby's.
Yeah.
Arby's, we have the meats. I don't know if that was a good impression or not.
I've come to make an announcement that all our food keeps blowing up.
All our food keeps blowing up. Yeah. That's a level of, very deep voice that I wish I could attain. Like, I can get my voice deep, but that guy is just like, and a lot of others too, like Keith David, Morgan Freeman, they just have naturally deep voices that kind of makes me a little jealous a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the deep voice narrator is the entire gimmick of the Arby's commercials. Like that, like
Right.
every
I mean,
commercial
it's a good
has...
gimmick. I will say it's a good gimmick, and it's fun parody. Have you seen any of those Arby's like parody commercials where I think someone uses like AI to imitate the voice, and they just say the most outlandishly just. You just have to see it just to see some of the messed up stuff they have the Arby's voice saying, and the fact that there's no music. The fact that there's no music behind it or anything, I might have shown you some in the past. I'm not entirely sure, but what's funny is they'll have him saying like the most messed up thing, and it's just no music. And then once he's done, that music comes in and it's like boom, 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 and it's just like Arby's, we have the meat. Yeah. And that song that plays is an actual song that you could listen to on Spotify. And what's funny is I've actually heard the song before Arby's started playing it in their commercials. And it was like several years ago I noticed it. I was like, oh, I know that song. And now it's just like they're still using it. And a lot of people are under the impression that it was made for that commercial. And it's like, so the song that they use is called Burial. And it's by a dubstep producer named I don't know off the top of my head.
That's
but
a very
I think
interesting
Skrillex
name.
is part of it. But Skrillex is part of it as well, and it includes a rapping verse from a rapper named Pusha T. Some people watching this may know who I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure Steven has no idea.
I don't listen to rap, so...
So yeah. It's a song called Burial. Yogi, that's the name. That's the name of the guy. Yogi. That's the name of the main producer who created the track. And it features some other people too, but it's a really good song. It's called Burial. If you want to listen to it, it's on Spotify. You can listen to it, and it's the Arby's song, the Arby's theme song that plays the.
We have the meats.
Yeah. So yeah, I just kind of went on a tangent about that. But yeah, next topic I'm going to talk about. This is something that I've just kind of thought about as I've done like homework and done like doing essays and doing like written reports or one class I'm in, they have this thing called intellectual responses, in which I read a chapter out of a book and I have to create a 800 word response to the contents of the chapter, and it's a weekly thing. So I work on it, and the number one thing that's always a very kind of a thing that they like to enforce is making sure that no one ever plagiarizes. Nobody take outside sources and copy what they say verbatim and take it as their own. You know, and it's one of the things where it's like, yeah, that's a good rule. No one should steal others' work and take it as their own. But the way that a lot of professors just like really make a huge deal, like if you plagiarize even one sentence, this will be sent to the council, and you're gonna get expelled from school. And it's like, in my opinion, in my opinion, that sounds just the tiniest bit harsh for just copying a sentence or something for your paper, right? Like, I'm not saying plagiarism is a good thing, and I'm also not, saying any of this to imply that I plagiarize, because I don't. I write my own original work, but I've always thought about how, if someone does plagiarize, do they really deserve to just be like expelled from school? Especially with this other methods of cheating, like using AI or something, that's not met with quite the same harshness as particularly plagiarism. So, like, what do you think of that, Steven?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't plagiarize. Obviously, it's
Right.
it's
Right.
it's like it's a wrong thing. Like, not even that it's just like against the rules or anything, but like morally, on a moral level, it's like a wrong thing to do because you're basically taking like work that someone else made and like worked hard on and put effort into, and that they like deserve credit for making, and you're basically trying to say like, oh, I made this and take credit for that work when you in fact were not the one who did anything to produce it. Like, and it's not just like writing things in school. Plagiarism exists everywhere, anytime like anybody makes
Right.
anything. So there's that. Yes, you shouldn't plagiarize. That's true. However, I do think that in some cases the penalties for plagiarism in school can be a little bit harsh, because like you said, and I'm sure
Right.
you may have been exaggerating a little bit when you said like, oh, plagiarize one sentence, we're going to send this to the council and you're going to get expelled from school. Like,
Oh, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They will say it's like if you plagiarize, this will be sent to like offices, and you will be reviewed for expulsion. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say they will like
wow.
they will expel
Yeah.
you from the entire college if you plagiarize on paper.
Yeah, like something like that, I feel like is just a little bit harsh. Like,
Right.
I don't feel like you should be completely expelled for plagiarizing like one time, you know? I mean,
And that's kind of the point. Yeah,
they
that's kind of
they
the point I'm trying to make. Of like, plagiarism is bad, but a lot of things in college are bad, whether it be academic or outside of
yeah.
academics, and not nearly any other one of them is met with the same hostility as plagiarism.
Yeah. I mean,
And that
even
just has,
like
it's just
if you
weird.
think
At the very
about it,
least, it's not even, yeah, it's
it
not even like horrendous or anything. To me, it's just a little weird. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
if you think about it, you think about in school, like anybody who's ever been in college or even in high school probably knows this. How much they talk about plagiarism, like from the very beginning. They're like, plagiarism is not tolerated. You can't do it. Yada yada yada. But like, if you think about it on like a realistic level, like what would be like a realistic penalty for plagiarism? You think about what plagiarism is, right? It's basically taking credit for someone
Yeah.
else's work or trying to take credit for a work that you didn't make. So, like, I feel like a proper penalty for plagiarism is just not giving you credit for the work because you obviously
Right.
didn't do it. And so, like, you turn in something that's plagiarized, okay, you just, like, it doesn't count because obviously it's not your work, so you don't get credit for it. And, like, you probably get, a bad grade on the assignment, or, like, if it's particularly harsh, maybe a 0 on the assignment. But I feel like
Yeah,
that,
like a 0.
I feel
Like
like
that sounds more reasonable than me than expulsion. They
Yeah.
need to be exiled from the country for plagiarizing.
deported.
They need to be executed. They need to be publicly executed. We will host a public execution in the town circle this Saturday of all the
town
unholy, all the defiled, all the bad people who even thought, even considered taking extensions from Wikipedia and putting it into the paper.
Oh, don't even get me started about not being able to use Wikipedia as a source.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously, Wikipedia is one of those things where it's like, if you are going to use it as a source, you definitely have to fact check and make sure other sources are saying the same thing. But
Yeah.
I feel like I even had a class that talked about not using Wikipedia, but more so using the sources that Wikipedia cite.
And that's what I
Like
do a
going to
lot.
those sources and using them.
Like what
as,
like in
like,
college,
things you use for a paper.
as I've had to write more papers and like do more research for college, like I've started to think of Wikipedia less of like a source of information in itself and kind of more of a collection of different sources, because like Wikipedia will break things.
It's a summarization.
Yeah.
It summarizes.
It'll break things
Your
down
topic
for
for
you
you.
in like a very simple and very easy to understand way and give you facts. I think that the proper way to use Wikipedia is to use the Wikipedia page and the information that's on Wikipedia to find the information that you want, because it's going to be a lot easier to find information there. And then a lot of times, or pretty much all the time, when you see like a fact in Wikipedia, like for example, Wikipedia will make some statement about like such and such happened, or someone did this, and then there'll be like the little note with a number in it that points to the source where they got that from. So then you basically you look at that fact, you say, I want to use that fact in whatever I'm writing. And so you go to the source that they link for that fact, and you go to that source, find where that fact is on that source, and then cite it instead of Wikipedia. And so you can still use Wikipedia to find the information. You're just citing the source that Wikipedia used instead of Wikipedia itself. That's how I've started to use it.
And while we're on the topic of Wikipedia, I also want to point out the whenever you go on Wikipedia, a lot of times they'll have a lot of pop-up notices that basically go along like this. Hi, we're Wikipedia. We offer you a free encyclopedia for you to use. And over here at Wikipedia, we are experiencing some financial troubles. So, if you are a true supporter of keeping this website free, please make a donation for us, as we need the money to continue making information free. Are you aware at all of the meme regarding Wikipedia begging for money?
I don't
Let me go to Wikipedia right now,
yeah, I don't know if I'm aware
and
of,
I want
like,
to see
the
if it
meme of
creates
it,
if it is something along that line.
but I have seen
Like, go to
seen
Wikipedia,
that
go to
pop
the-
up.
Yeah. You'll look up Wikipedia asking for money,
Yeah.
and there's like a whole thing.
No,
with
like
it.
even when just going on the normal website, like I've had it. I've seen it come up. It'll be like, it's basically exactly what you said. Be like, we're Wikipedia. We provide a free place for information.
It's like trying to guilt trip you. Like, are you really? Do you feel good about yourself?
How
The
does
fact that
this
you-
make you feel?
You take
Do you
advantage
feel like
of our
a
service,
good person?
and you don't even so much as send us $1. Does that make you feel good? Do you sleep well at night, knowing
you
that you
sleep well
use
at night?
Wikipedia without giving us money?
No, I
without
swear,
paying for
I
it?
swear in the past, I have seen one that literally said, like, if you want Wikipedia to keep being a thing, you need to donate money.
Right.
It's like,
And it's just like, it comes off as extremely try hard and very cringe, because it's just like,
yeah, like
You're
I
a company.
understand,
You're a
being
business.
a like a nonprofit organization and like relying
yeah,
on
like a nonprofit
donations
organization.
to like be your source of income, but like Wikipedia is quite literally one of the largest sources of information on the internet. So like I don't think you really have
Right.
that much of an issue with finances, right? And the thing is,
And even if you do, is sending out notices on your website begging people for money really the best way to go?
yeah,
I mean, this kind of
exactly.
thing did into the meme. So, I mean, the word of the needing money definitely got out there, but not in the way that made Wikipedia look good, more in the sense that it made them look desperate. But it is one of those things where it is funny to see.
Yeah. I don't know. Like when you run a service or an organization that's gonna rely on donations as a source of income, that's just kind of something that you have to prepare for. Like your income is not necessarily going to be consistent. You're kind of relying on the good hearts of the people to give you money because they want to and not because they have to. So like
Right.
I feel like going on your website and literally begging people to give you money it's just like
Please!
maybe
give
you
us
do.
money!
Like maybe you do need the money. Maybe it is necessary for more people to donate in order to keep going. That's fine, but like just the way that Wikipedia is doing it and the way it comes off, it's just not a good look.
Yeah.
It comes off the same as like those people on the side
I'm
of the
just
road
imagining.
holding the cardboard
It's making me
signs.
funny. It's making me laugh. The image of all these like top dogs over at Wikipedia just being like that, just on their hands
The
and knees,
just
just like
please.
please.
We don't have a place to sleep. We want food. Please donate money.
Please, sir. Please.
It's like
Oh, look,
obviously
everyone's
you're not working for Wikipedia as your full-time job. So like
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a very entertaining segment talking about Wikipedia, which wasn't even the initial topic, but we just kind of ended up talking about
improv.
it. Improv, yeah.
That's what this podcast does best.
And we're here to provide entertainment and comedy for y'all. Second part may or may not vary from episode to episode, as well as the entertainment and the quality part and the it being good part. It varies from episode to episode.
And even
but
the us being
one
here
thing,
part.
but one thing's for sure. Will me on the left, I bring up topics. Steven on the right, he plays Hello Kitty games or
Allegedly.
wherever else. Allegedly. Even
Yeah,
though Discord
no,
will
no-
tell me, Discord will tell me whenever he's playing a game or not. Right
But-
now, it doesn't
but
send
it
me
doesn't
anything.
say anything
So
about
unless
Hello
he's
Kitty
being,
games.
it doesn't send me a notification saying that he's playing anything. So unless he's being super sneaky with it, I think it's safe to say that he is fully invested in this conversation and is truly invested in making this podcast thrive. Ain't that
Hey,
right,
I
Steven?
mean, you can go into the Discord settings and turn off the thing where it shows what game you're playing. So that's all I'll say about that.
Okay. If you want to snitch on yourself, that's fine.
Hey, I didn't say I was snitching. I just said that's a thing
That's
you
on
can
you.
do.
Uh,
I didn't say I was
just going
doing
in
it.
and
That's
snitching on yourself.
Hypothetically, a arbitrary
You
person.
don't have to say that snitching in order to snitch on yourself.
I'm just saying, hypothetically, someone could do that. Not necessarily that I would do that.
All right. That aside, I want to quickly bring up this commercial I saw. It's from PayPal. They have a very confusing tagline that they use for their commercials. They obviously have a commercial where they show off someone using PayPal for, their service and like sending money, receiving money, whatnot. And at the end of the commercial, it says, "Don't just pay PayPal."
But what if I don't want to pay my pal? What if I want to pay my buddy or my friend or my bro?
Yeah, because as we all know, those are all very different things. But what kind of sentence is that? Don't just pay PayPal. Like, is PayPal just you saying, "Hey, pay your pal with PayPal"? You pay your pal with PayPal.
say that.
But
one
even
five
if that
times
is the case,
fast.
that's such a weird way to say it. Just like, don't just pay PayPal. That's like making a Wendy's commercial where it's just like, don't just win Wendy's.
Wendy's. You said it, not me. You said it, not me.
or like saying something along the lines of, don't just be as fast as Sonic's.
that one doesn't work. That one doesn't work.
The first one doesn't work. Don't just pay PayPal. That one doesn't work.
I mean, it kind of works, right? It's just like
It vaguely works. Let's say that it vaguely works.
that. No, it gives me the same. It sounds the same as like back in the day there was a commercial. Like, okay, so you guys know I'm talking to the audience. You know like frozen pizza, right? Like you go to the grocery store, you get
Right.
like frozen pizzas. One of the brands that you can get for frozen pizza is called DiGiorno. It's
Where you're going
spelled
with this.
really
it's
weird.
not just delivery, it's DiGiorno.
Yeah, there used to be a commercial that they were running that said it. That was their tagline. It's not just delivery, it's DiGiorno. It kind of has the same feeling as that.
But that one actually is catchy, and it is like one of the things where if you
And you're
really
saying
look at
don't
it,
just
it's
pay.
technically-
PayPal is not.
Like it's not just delivery, it's DiGiorno. It's saying it's not just delivery. Like you could probably have DiGiorno delivered to you, but it's saying it's not just delivery. Delivery implying the fast food pizza places like Domino's or Pizza Hut or Little Caesars. It's saying that this right here, this is DiGiorno. This is different from those other restaurants. This is something that you
Okay.
can pick up, put in your oven, and like that's the implication of the tagline. That's why it works.
Okay, but
with
okay,
something
so
like,
but
don't
think
just
of it this
pay
way.
PayPal. That just doesn't. It just doesn't.
Well, no, but think of
doesn't
it this
make
way,
sense.
right? Maybe okay, so you think about it in the same way as the DiGiorno one. Think about it's not just PayPal. They're saying like or don't just pay. They're saying like don't just pay normally. Don't just like hand someone cash or something like that. Do use PayPal. It's better.
So okay, yeah, that is kind of what the thing is saying. So why don't it just says don't just pay with PayPal or something
Because
like
it doesn't
that.
sound
Like,
because
that's-
well, no,
by
because
just saying PayPal, it's just a weird sentence structure.
well, yeah, but the point is like turning the term pay into their company name of PayPal. It's like don't just pay PayPal. It's like that's the catch. It's like
So
joining.
are we turning it into a verb now? Are we turning the thing into a verb now? Yeah, I'm about to PayPal tonight.
Yeah, well, people say that all the time. People say like, "Hey, can you PayPal me X number of money?" Like people say that. Like it's already a
All
thing.
right, you know what? That is fair.
You know what?
That
The
is
same
fair.
thing happens with Venmo. Hey, like everybody, like it's probably more common with Venmo. I'm sure you've probably heard someone tell someone else to Venmo them. Like it's a
So
verb.
let's say Venmo comes out with a commercial that says, "Don't just pay Venmo."
Yeah, no, it would work. It would work.
I feel like
I feel like
okay,
it
yeah,
wouldn't,
maybe, but I feel like just a little bit more context, like would make a little less confusion. Because I'm sure there's probably when you're making a commercial for something, you also have to make it general enough to where less savvy people, like old people, would be
I
able
feel
to
like
watch
they
it.
can
again. I feel like-
understand that. Like it's like it's implied, right? It's like don't just pay PayPal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this topic is a little less serious. This was something that I
I
just
know.
brought up. It's
That- it's like
I understand. I understand the meaning. I understand
I mean,
the meaning.
I'm not
behind it. I
saying-
just feel like it's a little goofy. I just feel it's a little goofy the way they.
Oh yeah,
phrase it.
I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that it's a good commercial, right? I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying that I can understand where they were going with that phrase,
Yeah.
like, using that phrase.
It's just a little funny the way they phrase it. Is all I'm saying. But yeah. All right. So, Steven, let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
How much do you like debating?
Oh, really, Will? After the topic that we just got done with, you're gonna ask me that question? How many times do I turn?
I might as well go
the
ahead and
most
ask you just straight
seemingly
up without tap.
harmless
Let me just ask you.
question into it, like, you know, it was a simple yes or no question, but I'll always find a way to turn it into a bait. Do I like debating? I will turn anything into a debate given the opportunity. You don't even have to make me. If you're gonna walk up to me and say, "Hey, Steven, do you like debating?" Obviously you know what the answer is gonna be.
All right, and that's something you said. You said you'll make a debate out of anything.
There's some things that I just don't, because I feel like it wouldn't be that engaging, but like if I really wanted to, I could make a debate out of literally anything.
All right, and that gets us into this next section, which will be the last section, because what I have for you, Steven, and I'm going to screen share right now, and editing me is going to have to recompile and recrop everything.
I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of my
All right.
this so that I can make sure I can see the screen.
All right, so Steven,
Yes.
what I have for you here is a wheel full of various debatable topics. Some of them are very general, like regarding voting age or like
I'm just looking at a
legalizing
couple of
drugs
the
and whatnot.
topics on this wheel.
And then you got a few goofy ones in there, like you got cannibalism in there. You got
Well,
a
chat,
couple other ones.
this is the episode.
yeah, like-
This is the episode where it happens. We're finally making this podcast political.
All right. Well, you don't have to get super like left or right political, but all right. So you see this wheel of debate questions, right?
Yes.
So here's how this is going to work for you, Steven. This is going to be a game portion. So in my hand, I have a coin, and for every round, I'm going to flip it, and there's heads and tails. If it lands on heads, you are going to be arguing for one of these topics. If I land on tails, you're going to be arguing against one of these topics. And let's say I land on heads and you're going to be arguing for. I'm going to spin this wheel, and whatever topic it lands on, you are going to have to argue for that particular debatable topic. And I am going to time you for a minute and a half for you to convince me that this topic is something that I should be for, or in the case that I land on tails, something that I should be against. All right. Any questions?
The proper game for a proper debatist.
Yes. This is a idea that is inspired by or I guess you could technically say plagiarized by a episode of Distractable, the podcast that features Markiplier. I think I've talked about them
Will
before.
is
This is
properly addicted to.
This is a thing they did where they had a wheel similar to this. I didn't copy every one of their debates. I kind of added a few of my own in there and some that I feel like you would definitely be able to talk about. And so, why don't we just get started, Steven? So, what's going to happen is I'm going to flip this coin, and wherever it lands on, and I'm going to show the screen, we're going to see whether you're going to be arguing for or against one of these topics. So let me go ahead and flip this. Ah, shit, I dropped it.
Will tries to flip a
I'm
coin.
not very good at coin flipping. Let me try this again. There we go. All right. I got it, and it is tails, as you can see right here. So that means you are going to be arguing against one of these topics right here. So without further ado, give me a drum roll, Steven. That is terrible. I can't even hear that. All right,
Wow.
I'm just going to spin it.
I was literally just beating on my desk.
School uniform requirements. All right, so Steven,
We're gonna be arguing against school
I have
uniforms.
the timer right here. You're going to be arguing against the requirement of school uniforms. So I'm going to give you a countdown, and once the countdown is done, you will have 90 seconds to basically make your argument. So are you ready, Steven?
I am ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Timer begin. Make your argument.
So, obviously, school uniforms are something that exists already. There are schools that don't have uniforms. There are schools that all do have uniforms. Most of the times, the schools that do have uniforms are going to be like your more kind of higher up level schools that are kind of considered to be better in some way, like, boarding schools and stuff like that. My question to you, the arbitrary person that I'm debating with, is why do we need school uniforms? What is special about the schools that use uniforms as opposed to the schools that don't, that we need school uniforms, right? Because, like, is there really any difference in the content that they're teaching? Is there really any difference in the quality of education that is being given at schools that use uniforms versus schools that don't? Like, school is a place where we're supposed to go for learning, right? I don't think that how people dress is necessarily something that schools should be in control of. And I don't think that it should be the responsibility of the school to say, we're not going to provide you any teaching because you're not wearing this specific uniform. Because, like, what does the clothing have to do with what you're learning, right? So obviously there needs to be some limitations on how people can dress because they need to dress properly. But I think that a requirement to have a full uniform is just a little bit excessive, over the top. It's not really needed in order to accomplish what a school's express purpose is, which is teaching.
All right, your
people.
timer is done. All right, so that was your argument. That was a very good argument. And for this next part, I am going to play devil's advocate. I am going to bring up a couple of points against your topic, wherever it may be, and I'm going to give you a additional 30 seconds to respond to my counterpoint. So, I hear what you're saying about how, in hindsight, school uniforms really don't affect the level or quality of learning that you should be getting, and how the teachers who make such a big deal out of it that they ban you from coming to school that day until you have a school uniform, it seems a little ridiculous. I will say, though, there are some people who make the argument that school uniforms are actually good because it makes you not worry so much about whether or not your choice of clothing, or it eliminates your having to worry about what you're wearing. If you're wearing the same thing, the decision is made for you, and so you can save time by not having to worry about wearing something or creating the right combination of clothing or whatever, depending on how serious you want to take it. And so there are those who prefer being able to just wear the same thing so that they don't have to think about it. So there's that counterpoint. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond to that. Are you ready, Steven?
Yes.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and counterpoint.
And see, I see where you're coming from by saying that, some people may want to just not have to think about their choice of clothing and may want to wear a uniform for that reason. But I would say, even at that point, it's still not really on the school to enforce that and to enforce it to everyone, because some people may be that way, sure, but not everyone is going to be that way. And a school that encompasses many different people has to think about being inclusive for everyone. So if somebody wants to wear a uniform, then that's
all right, your 30 seconds is up.
That's not very long at all.
So that's it's you have to kind of keep it kind of concise with that. But yeah, I say you made your points very well on this, and I give you 1 point for agreeableness.
1 point.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, if you get a topic that you already agree with, then it's not very hard to make your argument for it. But if it's something that, like, let's say you were,
how do you know that I agree with school uniforms? Maybe I believe there should be school uniforms.
Well, I don't know, but the point of this challenge will be, if there's something that you have to argue for that you're actually against, that's just a matter of, like, having to play devil's advocate with yourself, basically. But yeah, that's round 1, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that topic so that we don't get again in crap. Hold on. Give me a second here. All right, let me just apply wheel changes, and so yeah. So on to round 2. I'm going to flip the coin again to see whether or not the next topic you're going to be for or against. That was kind of a basic round 1 because it's kind of on a boring topic like school uniforms, but hopefully we get something interesting. And this topic you are going to be arguing against. You're going to be against this particular topic. Yippee indeed. All right, let's go ahead and spin that wheel. Okay, you are going to be against
Interesting.
animal testing.
Okay, hold
Basically,
on.
whenever a lab tests a new medicine or something, they always test it on rats or whatnot. So you are going to be arguing against that.
Okay.
So, are you ready, Steven? If you need some time to a couple seconds or
This-
something to think about this,
I don't know,
then,
because
I will allow it.
the hardest part about this really is not like having to make the argument. The hardest part is just the time limit, because I tend to be very wordy when I talk about things like this, so I struggle to fit things within time limits.
I mean, last time you really were you were really good in the minute and 30 seconds in addressing everything. The 30 seconds you kind of struggled with a little bit, but I am of a believer that you're doing really well so far. But are
That's
you ready,
crazy.
Steven?
Yeah, we'll say I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, argue away.
All right. So obviously, when we have new medications that come out, especially vaccines, but not just vaccines, other types of medications too, it's typical for us to test them in a laboratory setting on animals instead of just going straight to testing them on humans, because the belief is that, if an animal dies as a result of that, then, it's not a big deal. But if we kill like a human person because of that, then it's kind of a bigger deal than killing an animal, right? I would actually disagree to the point that, like, obviously animals are not the same level of life form that we are. They're, not intelligent, not sentient, but they are still life. And should we unnecessarily be taking the lives of other living things outside of our species in order to test something that we are potentially going to use on our species, right? Because think about it this way: if it works and it has its intended effect, then we're just benefiting off of that, and the animals are not benefiting at all, and they were just used for testing unnecessarily. But if it doesn't work, then we're, killing them off and saving ourselves, which, from our point of view looks really good, but think about it from their point of view. What if there was some other intelligent species other than humans, and they were using us as a test vessel for their kind of things? Would you want that? If you think about it, would you really want that? Just think about that next time you want to talk
All right,
about that.
and that is the minute 30 seconds. Very compelling, very incredibly compelling. I definitely like the angle you're taking of, like, for us it may not be a big deal, but let's say we were to travel to an alternate reality where we were the one being tested on by animals.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to provide my devil's advocate take on this. All right, so obviously that scenario doesn't exist, that we're going to be tested on by animals. However, another thing about it is that even if you feel bad for the animals who are being tested on and the ones that are being potentially killed off in these experiments, what would you rather want? That or the same thing happening with humans? That is my simple counterpoint. I will give you 30 seconds to respond to it. Are you ready, Steven?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Counterpoint away.
Right, and I see that, and I feel like this kind of becomes a situation of the, like, would you save some random person or, like, your favorite pet or something like that? But I think it's actually a little bit different than that, because, yes, people would argue that the value of human life is higher than the value of animal life, and I would agree to an extent. However, I think another angle to consider is willingness, right? Animals can't express their willingness to undergo this testing to us because we don't have a way to communicate with them. Humans can. So if humans
All
are
right.
willing,
So that is 30 seconds.
why would you stop them from being able to volunteer that position?
Your time is up, Mr. Steven. You are. You kind of have to make your points very compact.
No, I don't do good
And
with
that 30-second counterpoint. Okay, how about this? I will, for next rounds, I will extend it to 45 seconds to give you just a little bit more time. Just to give it a little bit more time.
I got too much to say.
But yeah, on your points on this, I'd say you made them again very well. And yeah, I will give you another point. These have just kind of been some normie rounds.
Normie
we haven't
rounds.
yet had a true wild card yet. Where you had
for
to
those of you keeping track
advocate
at
for or
home.
against something truly outlandish.
For those of you keeping track at home, if you want my actual real opinion, I would actually argue for animal testing for a number of reasons. The reasons that I gave
Right.
against it is I kind of just made those up, and I think they are valid reasons, like valid things to consider when you think about that. But the benefits of it, I think, outweigh the costs in a way that I would like just to make it clear to those of you, just so you know my actual stance.
Well, this is a game that doesn't care about your actual stance. It just cares about your debating skills. So,
Yeah, I've
now-
always known this to be like an exercise that I think that they actually use on like professional debate teams, because like that's a thing. There's like debate teams out there where like they'll like you just could debate competitively and you get judged on like how well you can debate. And I think that this is like I've heard at least that this is like an actual exercise that they use where it's like they give you a topic and you have to like argue for or against it, and sometimes they'll even have like two people debating each other where they're basically assigned to both sides of the topic. So it's like this person has to argue for this topic, this person has to argue against it, and like they debate each other
I will say,
to practice.
I will say, in the Distractable episode, it's a podcast that has 3 people, and so there are 2 people who argue on opposite ends. That is not what we have. We are just a 2-man show, so I am assigning you either for or against these topics, and I'm doing my best to offer a opposite point for you to work off of to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, I am going to flip the coin again, and we are going to see if you're for or against this next topic. Alright. The outcome is heads, so you are going to be arguing for...
Let's see
We are
what we
spinning
got.
the wheel now.
Spin the wheel. Social media.
Okay. You are going to be for social media.
I feel like this
Completely
will
for
be pretty easy.
Alright. So, are you ready, Steven?
Yep, I'm ready.
Alright. 3, 2, 1, argue away.
There's social media, right? People like it, people don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. These days, you'll hear a lot about, people spend too much time on social media. Social media is corrupting our new generations. Like, we should do away with it, especially from the perspective of older people. You'll hear a lot about, like, social media is just something that needs to be done away with, right? I disagree. I think that social media is a valuable tool, and I think that the arguments that get made against it and the negative things that get said about it are not fully deserved, because social media in itself inherently is not a bad thing, right? It's all about how it's used. It's like saying that we should completely do away with, things that can cause harm to other people just because of how they're used. And it's like, oh, because a minority of people are using them in this way, we should just get rid of them entirely, thus hurting the people who are using them properly. And the same argument could really be made for social media. Why should we do away with social media as a whole, getting rid of its access for everyone who uses it just because of a minority of people who are misusing it? And, social media is something that is valuable enough of a way for people to communicate with each other and share opinions and all kinds of stuff like that, and just be social with each other without having to actually see each other in real life. I don't think that it should be completely done away with just because of some small concerns.
Alright,
that come
Steven.
up.
That is 90 seconds. Alright, so let me offer my counterpoint, my devil's advocate. So, social media is a very broad topic. I will say that much. There's a lot of good that's been made out of it. However, there's been a lot of negative side effects that I feel like generations from now will be very apparent on how it's impacted the younger generation of today. Things like cyberbullying and, in general, just being more of a douchebag has been a lot more celebrated now thanks to how social media works. The algorithm is based on negativity because that's what pulls in more people, and it causes people to be more bad people. And on top of that, I feel like the validation that you get from social media and like the drive to get followers, the drive to get likes, the clout chasing is a real word now, and it's caused people to do very abhorrent things. And obviously, the answer is not to eliminate all social media. However, social media in itself, some may argue, will have had created a lot more bad than it has created good. So that is the opposite devil's advocate point. I am now going to give you 45 seconds to respond to that. Are you ready, good sir?
I suppose.
You suppose. All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. And 3, 2, 1, argue away.
Right, and I see where you're coming from, that you could make the argument that social media, in the way that it works, could encourage sort of negativity, but I would say that I still think that it is a minority of people on social media that are causing such negativity, and it just gets blown completely out of proportion because, as you mentioned, the algorithm feeds on that kind of thing because people flock to it. Why? Because it's entertaining. People find that kind of thing entertaining because they like to spectate and sort of sit on the sideline and eat their popcorn while people are being negative to each other because it's funny, right? But that kind of thing can kind of blow this minority of negativity out of proportion, and I just don't think that's a problem with social media in
All
and
right,
of
that
itself.
is 45 seconds. That is 45 seconds. For those watching at home, for those listening, if you have a opinion on how he's arguing this, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you agree with the points he's making, if you disagree. And obviously, this is just a game at the end of the day, but this is a very good way to create conversation on these topics. And, you know, these first three have just kind of been very normal. We have still yet to have a true wild card. I threw some wild cards in there that I'm hoping we land on soon so that we truly get some entertaining debates coming up. These three have just been on like social media, animal testing, you know, just like all the generic stuff that I threw in to
All
kind
the
of fill out
generic
the
stuff.
entire thing.
So you're saying we've been landing on
Right.
filler content?
More or less. I got one right here. I don't know if you see it. Making Will the supreme leader of the
Oh,
world.
imagine having. To
I
argue
hope
for
I hope
that
you
one.
land on that for a 4 for you two. All right. That's one I'm hoping we land on soon. But anyways, let me go ahead and we're probably gonna do 2 more rounds of this. We're not gonna have the entire episode like this, otherwise it's gonna go on forever. I will keep this wheel aside. I will keep this in case we want to do a follow-up episode soon.
Hopefully, in the follow-up episode, my time limits can be extended because this is feeling a lot like a lightning round.
It is. Like, I don't want you going on forever about these. They're just very much supposed to be bite-sized. You know what I mean? And the game part of it is how much can you condense in this very condensed time limit? You know, if this was real, if this was part of a debate team type thing, then yes, you would be given a lot more time to not only prepare but also debate. But this is not that. So
No,
keep that in mind.
this is just
But,
Will running a podcast and trying to see how much he can ruin my
you
reputation.
know what? You know what? I'm gonna add a debatable topic. Should the time be extended? That is now a topic that could be landed on. So if you land on that, we will be able to hear. All right. So are you ready, Steve? I'm going to flip this. All right. It is on tails. You're going to be arguing against one of these topics right here. All right. Let's see.
Banning
Ooh.
homework.
All right, so you are going to be arguing against banning homework. You do not want You don't want homework to be banned at all. So, 90 seconds is the time limit once again. Are you ready? Mr. Steven?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Argue away.
A lot of people complain about homework. They say that it's not, it's not worth it. It kind of isn't something that should be a thing because it's eating into students' personal time. And a lot of times in other countries, there actually isn't homework. And some countries actually use homework as a punishment. And this is something that people in the US have actually, kind of taken hold of and said, look, we should ban homework. I would disagree because I think that homework actually has value. Because think about it this way, homework is work that is done outside of class. And when you think about school, whether it be grade level school or even college, there's limited time that you get to spend in class. So especially on some subjects, that time would really be best used for the teacher or the professor or whoever it would be to kind of be explaining concepts to you and kind of interacting with the students, kind of, getting the information out there, having time to interact with the students and see if they're understanding. Homework kind of being the time that you can spend outside of class, and it's not scheduled, so you can do it kind of whenever you want, but it's kind of that work that reinforces the topics and kind of gives you that hands-on experience with whatever you're learning, and the teacher or professor has time to grade the homework outside of class time, so that then when you have more class time, that's when you would spend time talking about it and whatever needs to be talked about.
All right, that is 90 seconds, Mr. Steven. All right, so for this, I'm going to provide my devil's advocate take. You mentioned earlier about a few countries that have actually either banned it altogether or have only implemented it as punishment. And the interesting thing about those countries, particularly Finland, who is very famous for doing this, they're actually the top-ranked education country ever because they rely a lot more on actual education and actual teaching stuff, and they are a lot more tailored to students and at young ages how their brains operate throughout the day. And so the argument that just because some other countries use it doesn't mean it's a thing that needs to happen. When you see those countries perform better than the United States that does implement homework, how does that make you feel as someone who's arguing against banning homework? I'm going to give you 45 seconds to respond to this. Are you ready, Mr. Steven?
Yes.
All right, 45 seconds is a go, and 3, 2, 1, debate away.
Right, and I see your point. That is a fair point that you make, that the countries that have banned homework traditionally do perform better in education than the United States. However, I would ask you to consider how much of that actually has to do with the existence or non-existence of homework, and how much of it has to do with these countries' education systems just being overall better than the United States. Because if you know anything about the United States education system, it's not at all the best. It gets the job done, but it's certainly not very student oriented. It doesn't do what you said with Finland about where they kind of are more tailored to the students. I think that instead of banning homework, the US
all right,
should
45
work more...
seconds. That is it, Mr. Steven. That is it. Very interesting. Very interesting. This is probably the first one that I do kind of have to disagree with you and not reward a point, which I know the points don't really mean much. It's just kind of a matter of, even if I disagree inherently, do I think you make your arguments well towards it? I think you do make it well, but maybe not well enough to make me really, to really convince me. You know what I mean? Convince me to believe your side rather than mine.
I need more time then. If you want me to actually convince you, you got to give me more time.
You could convince me in 90 seconds, theoretically.
But think about it this way, Will. If you
I mean, I will say in that distractible episode, they were able to And I know it's not fair to like really compare like those guys.
Yeah, but
are a lot
I'm
older.
just saying, like, think about it
They're probably a lot more
realistically, right?
knowledgeable.
Are there any topics that you have a firm belief in, like you believe one way, you lean heavily one way, that you think that somebody giving you a 90-second speech, that somebody could give a speech compelling enough that you, as a person, genuinely would completely change your views to the opposite direction in a minute and a half? Do you really think you hold any beliefs like that?
Well, maybe not fully, but it could definitely sway me a little bit more towards it, like just a little bit. Wouldn't you agree on that?
I don't know. I feel like a minute and a half, like that's like less than half the length of a YouTube short now since they extended the YouTube short. So you're saying that you could watch a YouTube short and it could potentially change your view on a topic just from that, just from the small amount of information that someone could put into there. Like no additional research that you could do, no
Okay,
looking into it
this is going
yourself
to be
at all.
another. Can you change your mind on a topic in uh, in 90 seconds? That will be a potential. And did I get rid of no, I have not. Let me go ahead and do that. We're just adding topics that tailor to the ongoing debates that are created during or and about this debate game.
Yes, we're
By the
debating
end, this is
about
going to be
debating.
50 additional questions.
I told you I can
All
turn
right.
anything into a debate.
All right, and in these cases, you might have to argue against that. Or for it, depending on what contradicts your actual beliefs, which will be a lot more funny about it. All right, so this is going to be the last round. Like I said before, we may come back to this if this turns out to be something that people like.
With extended time, of course,
so-
because a minute and a half is not enough.
We'll let the people decide. How about that?
What people?
All right, so let's go ahead and flip this. This is Tails. You're going to be arguing against this, Mr. Steven. So
That is
let's go
the-
ahead and spin that wheel.
That is the fourth time that I'm going to be arguing against something. We're just debunking. Every time.
Okay,
Well,
okay. This one is the. You're going to be arguing against this. Can you change your mind on a topic in 60 seconds? You're going to say no, which is, I think, consistent with what you've been saying. So let's go ahead and give you. I'll be kind and I'll give you 2 minutes on this. How about
wow,
that?
30 more seconds.
How about that? 30 more seconds. I'm not gonna make
You know,
this,
in my
again, the
public
point of this game
speaking
is not to
class,
give you-
when I had to give my persuasive
point
speech, I
of
had
the
up
game
to
is not to
7
give
minutes
you
for that.
extended time. The point of this is not to give you extended time. The point of this is to see just how well you can construct a argument in such a short time frame. And so let's go ahead and are you ready, Steven?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Argue away.
So the question being, can you change your mind on a topic in 60 seconds? Now that's a really tricky question, I think, because a lot of people would argue, yeah, you can change your mind on a topic in 90 seconds. Plenty of people do. I mean, it's completely possible, and I would say yes. However, I think we have to consider the real ramifications of changing your mind. We're not just talking about changing your mind like a spontaneous spur of the moment kind of thing. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how you believe on something. And I think that is the kind of thing that really requires more thought and more explanation put into it than 90 seconds, because it's like I told Will earlier, you think about if you really truly believe one way on something, can the amount of information that someone can condense into 90 seconds really be enough to change your mind? And if you answered yes to that question, if you think that 90 seconds is enough time, then I would question how strongly you actually believed that topic in the first place. I think that in order to truly change beliefs that you felt strongly about, it really takes more information than what can physically be fit into a 90-second period. And to have a belief that is weak enough, and I say this I put it quite bluntly, to have a belief that is weak enough that you could have it be changed with information that can be presented in 90 seconds. I would say that you didn't necessarily believe too strongly one way to begin with, and that maybe you were actually leaning toward the other side to start, and then this 90-second sort of a bit of information was just that last little push that you needed to go over. And so I feel like when it comes to a fundamental left to right, positive to negative shift of an entire belief system, it really takes more than 90 seconds of information to do so.
All right, your timer is up, and so your 2 minutes is up. All right, so I gave you that extra 30 seconds, and I guess this goes into the devil's advocate part of this. I will say, with that extra bit of time, you kind of repeated a lot of stuff that you were saying in the first half. But outside of that, I think that a lot can be said in 90 seconds, or even 120 seconds, what you just gave. And I think a lot of information can be packed into that. And I feel like people are changing their minds. It's not so much about them being not believing in it strongly enough, but more so that they are allowing themselves to be as open-minded as possible, that all the information that can be given to them in 90 seconds that are at odds with what they believe, they can take that and they can think of their minds, okay, how well do these points bring up? How strongly do they compete against the points that I have believed in on something? And I think it's a matter of, you could change your mind slightly on something where you still agree with the vast majority of what you thought, but something that you bring up in 90 seconds can be potent enough to where you now implement that into your belief, into a particular topic, rather than believing it 100% after the debate. So with that, I'm going to allow you a full minute of a counter debate to that. Are you ready, Mr. Steven?
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1, counter debate away.
Right, and I can see where you're coming from when you say that, you know, certain beliefs and certain people, if you're open enough to your beliefs being changed and that your view on a topic being changed, could potentially have that shift happen with the information provided in 90 seconds. But I would still argue that just that 90 seconds of information, while yes, you can fit a lot of information into 90 seconds, the question is it enough, right? Because I think that you have to consider, would you really change your belief just on that information alone, or would you hear this 90 seconds of information and sort of think of that as a starting point and say, well, I kind of see where this person is coming from. I think they make a compelling argument, but I, hold strongly to one belief system. I don't know if I'm quite ready to change that yet. So they might want to take some time to consider, or maybe look into other sources, get other people's opinions on it, something like that. And then,
all right, and that is a minute, Mr. Steven. All right, yes, Queen, yes.
Please never say that.
We've been recording for a long time. How long have we been going?
We have been going for an hour and 22 minutes.
This is one of our longer episodes. This is why I didn't want to do too many rounds of this particular game right here.
In my opinion, what I think would have been better is to take, because we've done five or six different rounds of this. I think we could have, taken this, had this be one topic, and then allow me to actually give a really good, compelling argument with, maybe some input from you to kind of answer some questions.
Well, too bad. This is what you get instead. That's all I can say, Mr. Steven. So, I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming, and I'm going to have to edit these screens back in.
Editing Will is going to be...
Premiere.
Editing Will is going to be very unhappy with
because
Podcast
I've been
Will.
getting more used to it because I'm in classes on it and stuff. And the more you learn about Premiere, the more you actually learn how useful a lot of its features are compared to some of the free software that I've been using.
It's a good thing I don't use Apple products. Ha 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 ha.
Premiere's not an Apple product.
I know it's an Adobe product, but it's what people on Apple use because that's all you can get.
So it's not even that you just hate Apple. You also hate all the Apple associates. Can we call it that?
Well, okay, I didn't say I hated Adobe. I do dislike companies.
You slandered them right now.
That's
You
not
slandered
slander.
Adobe.
I just said that it's not my personal
That's gonna be the
choice.
title of this episode. Steven slanders Apple and its associates.
No. Because, okay, I generally do dislike companies that choose to have their products or their applications be available only on Apple, because I feel like they're just limiting themselves to an inferior operating system, right? So I dislike companies that
Who said
do
it was
that.
inferior? You know,
Apple is inferior.
but the processing power of Apple is different than the processing power on
You are not
Windows.
gonna talk to me
on
about-
Windows, and the processing power that's on Apple is a lot more applicable for Adobe things than the processing power that Windows supports.
You're not gonna make the argument that processing power is better on Apple, okay? Because if you have
Well, let's say
a
not
well-built
processing power, but what they specialize in their processing power. What they specialize in. You know,
They don't
Apple, they
specialize in anything.
specialize in the processing power that supports like Adobe things and like video
What do
making
you
and
mean?
storage
You
and
can
stuff
use
like that. While
Adobe.
Windows
You
is
can use Adobe on Windows. There's not.
yeah,
as-
you can, but it's a lot more.
No, it's not.
I don't know. I'm just
You
I'm just
say
saying
okay.
stuff that I've heard
These are the
before, right?
words.
Right.
These are the words of a man who has never used anything.
like I get you
other
don't
than
like Apple, but you have to at the very least admit that there's a reason why most people will use it for certain stuff rather than Windows. You
Yeah,
have to at the very
because
least admit
Apple
that,
is
right?
the operating system for people who don't understand what they're doing.
No, that's not the
Yes.
case at all.
That
Steven.
is
You are
it. That is it.
you are being a hater. You are
No,
100% just being a hater.
I'm not being a hater. I am being an informed disliker.
No. You're just being a hater.
No, because think about it.
All right.
Apple doesn't allow you like any access to like lower system level stuff, right? They don't want you doing anything to their products that they don't specifically allow, right? You don't really have the level of control over your devices on Apple as you have on other operating systems. And like a lot of people don't really care about that, and that's because those are people who are not very technically literate, not very technically minded. So Apple is literally the operating system for people who don't know what they're doing and just want a system that they can't accidentally break.
Okay, let's say that is the case. Even then, there are still a lot of benefits on Apple in the terms of storage and stuff that you don't get on Windows.
What do you
So,
mean?
like, even
You do realize that Windows is an operating system that can be installed on any computer. Like, storage is not tied to the operating system.
well, okay. I will say this is something that I wish I had a little bit more research on. So you might be right in the sense that I am a little disinformed, but this is something that I still have other prior knowledge on, just a little bit vaguely. Although I will say, I will at the very least admit, I will need a little bit more education on this in order to properly,
Go get
defend
that.
my stand.
I feel like
And
it-
who knows? Maybe with some more education, I will come to actually agree with you. That is
Yeah,
entirely
I
possible.
think
However,
that
at
once
this point in
you-
time, I'm just
No.
going to keep defending Apple because it's what I've used.
Yeah,
and
see,
I've
then
had
that's the problem. People
I've
defend
had
it. People
problems
defend
with
it because it's
sure,
what
but
they used,
But
right?
there's going to be problems with a operating system, so I don't think it's fair to just
not
single
enough
out
people
Apple.
not enough people know enough about technology to properly see the light of how Apple is inferior. They just don't know, right? And like, I feel like if you did your research, you would realize that there are far too many advantages to not using Apple and far too many disadvantages to using it. And you know, I just feel like the people who swear
That's something
by
I
it
personally do
and
not
stand
believe,
on
but
it are the
you know,
people
who
who are just
knows?
not informed.
All right, and on that note, I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode. If you like to see more of a debate style Steven, we'll bring this wheel thing back in future episodes. But as of right now, this is the end of the episode. And as always, please like and subscribe for another episode of To Whom It May Concern podcast.
And